Hello and welcome. You know that feeling when you're listening to native English speakers and it's like they're using some kind of secret code? They'll say one thing but mean something completely different? Well, today we're going to crack that code. Let's dive right into the wonderfully weird world of English idioms.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Your friend is about to give a huge presentation, they're super nervous, and you look them right in the eye and say, break a leg. It sounds like you're wishing them harm, right? So what on earth is going on there? And this is just a perfect example of how bizarre idioms can be. What sounds like a terrible curse is actually one of the most common ways to wish someone good luck, especially before they go on stage or do something big. It's the complete, total opposite of what the words literally mean. So here's the deal. An idiom is basically a phrase where the words all huddle together to create a brand new meaning, one you just can't guess from the individual words themselves. And honestly, getting a handle on these is the key to speaking more naturally, to really sound like you get the language. So, to make sense of this whole thing, we've grouped these idioms into four main categories. We'll kick things off with phrases for life's general situations, then we'll get into effort and money, then secrets and surprises, and we'll wrap it all up with idioms for speaking clearly and directly. All right, first up, describing life situations. These are the idioms you'll hear all the time for everything from feeling a little sick to describing something that is absolutely, positively never going to happen.
Okay, here's a classic. If you hear a coworker say, I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so I think I'm going to stay in. They're not talking about a rainstorm. It's just a nice, gentle way of saying they feel a little sick.
Now this is what we all want, right? To get the best of both worlds. Imagine someone who gets to work in a busy, exciting city, but lives out in the peaceful countryside. They're enjoying the perks of two totally different, but awesome situations. This one is so visual, you can almost see it. You've got a tricky situation, maybe a small argument, that's the fire. Then someone says something to make it worse. They're literally adding fuel to the fire, and suddenly, that small problem is a huge blaze.
Oh, this is one of my favorites just for how ridiculous it sounds. If you ask for a huge raise and your boss says, sure, when pigs fly, well, don't hold your breath. It's just a funny, kind of sarcastic way of saying never in a million years.
So if when pigs fly means never, then once in a blue moon means, well, almost never. It's for something that technically could happen, but it's super infrequent. You know, like, I love a good movie, but with my schedule, I only go to the cinema once in a blue moon.
Okay, let's switch gears. Our next section is all about effort, ease, and expense. This is how we talk about work, challenges, and money in a more colorful way. So here we've got a nice little spectrum of effort. When something's super easy, it's a piece of cake. When you do way more than anyone asked you to, you go the extra mile. And then there's bite the bullet. That's when you have to face something difficult head on. And fun fact, this one has a pretty intense origin story. Way back before modern medicine, surgeons would actually give wounded soldiers a lead bullet to bite down on during surgery to help them deal with the pain. So today, when you bite the bullet, you're kind of channeling that same spirit of just getting through something tough. And what about those times when something is just ridiculously expensive? You don't just say it costs a lot. You say it costs an arm and a leg. Like, I would love to buy that new car, but wow, it costs an arm and a leg. It just paints such a vivid picture of how pricey it really is. All right, moving on to our third category, secrets and surprises. These are the phrases that pop up when something totally unexpected happens or, when somebody can't keep a secret. This one always gives me a funny mental image. If you've ever tried to plan a surprise party, you know the absolute terror that someone might let the cat out of the bag. It just means they accidentally told the secret and ruined the surprise. Whoops. Now this is for that feeling of total, shocking surprise. You haven't heard from an old friend in 10 years, and then one day, boom, you get a letter from them. That letter came out of the blue. Completely random, totally unexpected. And here's an idiom for a coincidence that's so perfect, it feels a little spooky. You're in the middle of telling a story about your friend Jack, and at that exact moment, Jack walks right into the room. You just turn and say, well, speak of the devil. It's just a funny way to point out the perfect timing. So there you have it, revealing secrets, totally unexpected events, and surprise arrivals. Now, let's get into our final group of phrases. For our final section, we're going to look at speaking with precision, because sometimes you just need to be super clear, direct, and get your point across perfectly.
I love this phrase. The image it creates is just so satisfying. A perfect, clean strike. When you hit the nail on the head, you've described something with 100% accuracy. If someone pinpoints the exact reason a project is failing, they've just hit the nail on the head.
This one is a lifesaver for anyone who hates long, rambling meetings. When you tell someone to cut to the chase, you're really just asking them to skip all the fluff and get straight to the important part. And what's cool is that it actually comes from the early days of filmmaking, when directors would literally tell editors to skip the boring dialogue and cut to the chase scene. It's a pretty useful way to say, okay, let's get to the point.
So, after all this, here's a final thought to leave you with. These phrases, they feel so solid, so permanent, but language is always changing. So, what happens to our little secret code when the impossible actually becomes possible? What happens to a language when the pigs, quite literally, start to fly? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining me today.